Hello and welcome to All For United WFC, the home of Manchester United Women's Chat. And we have put together a rather wonderful little panel of people here to react, I suppose, really more than anything else. We was kind of thinking of doing one anyway. And then Polly decided to resign, which gave us a bit of a header to go with there. So here we are once again. It's a Thursday evening and we should be having lots of good chat over the course of the next 45 to 60 minutes, roughly. So let's introduce the panel, lest we not know who they are. Over there to my left-hand shoulder, just there, is the wonderful Vic. How are you doing, young lady?
All good here, thank you.
And more importantly, remember to unmute. So congratulations, you've done better than one does more often than not over on the men's channel. Just below her, we have got the almighty, the season ticket holder himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andrew Wall. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, good to be back on. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. We get you on a lot on the men's channel, but not as many opportunities over here. So good to have you back as well. And speaking of people that don't make that many appearances over on the women's channel, just below me here, we've got one of the OGs, one of the originals, Mr. Matt Crane. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's like I say, it's been a while, so I'm excited to be back. It's rare for Thursday as well, but yeah, here we are.
Absolutely, there we go. So let's have a look and see what we're going to be talking about today. Let's see who's in the comments to begin with. We've got Joshua here talking about the new stadium. So obviously responding to the bit about Old Trafford, which we will be getting to a little bit later on. Even into all of you there saying your hellos, and Paul straight in with the stadium one as well. Take the stadium to 40,000, but it will still need 200 to 300 million quid spent on upgrades. So people already throwing themselves in onto that chat, but that's not where we're starting today. We're starting unbelievably with the picture that was on the thumbnail, which is I've called it huge news, that Polly Bancroft has decided to resign. She will be leaving the club at the end of the season, where she will be going over to Grimsby and taking over, in fairness to her, all operations. She'll be the CEO of the whole club, which is quite something. So she'll be looking after the men, the women, and any youth facilities that they have there also, which is quite something. So I suppose we'll just go around and get your initial thoughts on the news, I suppose, more than anything else. So, Vic, what did you reckon when the news came up at 3:00 this afternoon that Polly Bancroft was waving goodbye to her role as head of women's football?
I guess it's something that we've all kind of been waiting for something to happen. So I wasn't that surprised. I wouldn't say I'm happy or not happy because, you know, it's another big change within United, but it's definitely a change that needed to happen, along with other ones that hopefully will happen. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. And yeah, we just got to see if we can find someone who can fit the job now and do it better than she did.
We'll get on to what it is that Polly actually did do in a moment, but we get the initial reactions of the rest of the panel first. Andrew, I mean, you've seen it all. You haven't quite won the lot, but as the chant goes. But what do you reckon? Polly Bancroft leaving? Was you upset about that?
I say I wasn't surprised that the announcement came that she was leaving the club. It was just interesting enough. It coincides with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The ownership. All that being going through now, and his stake in the club. So I say Ratcliffe's vision for the club, even the women's team. He's ambitious as well. So he wants that culture of winning and success. So they say Bancroft's decision to leave is reportedly unrelated to the club's changing ownership, but and transition period is going to herald as well. I think we're at a critical point with the women's team. So Sir Jim coming in, I feel like there's going to be some big changes coming over the next several months as well. Once they've got their feet under the table, the new owner, Sir Jim and his team as well. So interesting to see who they bring in next.
Very, very true. That's some interesting things being thrown out. NT saying, Andrew wasn't a part of the 99 treble team. I can confirm. that he is not Ronnie Johnson in disguise. No. So unfortunately, that's not the case. He hasn't just put on some specs like Clark Kent and Superman. That's not how it works over here. Matt, for you, obviously the news came out, as I say, 3:00. Any surprises for you? I mean, we've got Ema saying the grass isn't always greener. She may have walked before she was pushed. Did you get any part of the announcement making you feel that maybe that was the case? What was your reaction?
I think so, yeah. I think similar to Andrew's touched on, obviously, with new ownership, I think this feels like the start of hopefully improvement. I think you only have to sort of look over the past season or so where there's been frustrations aimed at her. If I throw out one example, getting a brass band at Old Trafford, just things like that haven't gone down well. Failures behind the scenes and frustrations with contracts. Just the way things have been sort of dealt with by her, really. Obviously, it doesn't all fall on her. However, it's not been great, has it, over these past sort of, like I say, this time period that she's been at the club. So hopefully now, we can get the off-the-field structure in place and then sort of work on the field. And I know you mentioned earlier about sort of getting into bigger debates and things about other staff. But yeah, I think hopefully now this is the start of sort of a new era, really, and hopefully we can just build and improve going forwards.
Absolutely. Well, we're getting lots and lots and lots of comments coming in now about Polly. So I suppose what we could do is we could go round and you guys could answer some of these questions. So, Vic, I'm going to give you this one from JJ. He says, Polly's legacy is the departures of Rousset and Rousset. Yeah, she's the French version. Rousseau and Battier. That's where I was going with that. So I'm fine with the news. We all remember this time last year when we were all scratching our heads and wondering whether Leslie and Honor were going to stay or go. When you see that, is that what you think of the most when you think of Polly Bancroft? The fact that she wasn't able to keep hold of Leslie Rousseau and Honor, although I genuinely am not convinced that even the fairy godmother from Cinderella would have kept Honor here. But what do you reckon?
I think it's difficult. I do think it's hard. Like I said, I have mixed views on it, really, because, I mean, the Rousseau thing, was she going to stay? I mean, we don't know the ins and out of that. I don't think she was going to stay anyway. I don't think we could have kept her here. And again, with Honor, she wanted to play in Spain. It's her home, fair enough. But I do think, the likes of other players, Vilda, there's lots of other players that we lost in summer, and I do think that is a big factor of basically what Polly's left for. She's been accused of all of that, which I do think is hard because you don't know what's going on like higher up. Was she allowed to do what we wanted her to do? Was she given the yes, okay, you do what you want? We don't know. We never will. And, you've got to kind of give that respect in that way as well, the fact that we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, just as like when contracts get extended, when people leave, we don't know what's going on. So I do think it's hard, and like I said, I do have mixed views on it. But no, I do agree with the comment with the Rousseau and Battier's leaving, but I don't solely think it was her that that couldn't get them to stay. There's lots of different things. They wanted to go other places, absolutely fine. We've also got a manager in the mix, and we've got people above Polly, so it's not just her that can be blamed for that. So yeah.
Fair points, and lots of people agreeing there that Honor would have gone no matter who it was that was in the head of women's football role.
And so, good Honor.
Good Honor. Good Honor. Yeah, love that.
Honor.
I was going to go with Honor was always a Connor, but that's good for me. I like it. Andrew, Vic's alluded to it here already. There's been a couple of comments like this. Paul saying, I've seen a lot of negative comments online, but playing devil's advocate, was she given the support she needed? Was she allowed to do what she wanted to? Sporty saying the same sort of thing. We need to remember Polly has had the Blazers calling the shots during her tenure at United. That can't have helped matters. Do you kind of go along with that? Do you feel like maybe she was hamstrung? She wasn't in a situation where she could do the things that she wanted to, and so therefore that's part of the reason why she's decided to up sticks at the end of this season?
That's a good question. I think maybe to a slight degree, the Glazers, ultimately, they have the control. They can decide what happens at the club. Yes, Polly would have to report to them or whoever's above her. So it's just like Vic was saying about the players' contract. Yes, that was one of her biggest tasks, and obviously two of the players we wanted to get renewals for, they ended up leaving. In the case of Anna, she was going back to Barcelona and she was going home. I thought, I can't dispute that. But with Letty, I'm just like, I thought there was more of a chance she would have stayed. I think we were offering a good contract and making her one of the highest players in the team. So I'm like, was Letty going to stay? Who knows? We did end up getting Champions League, but I'm just like, she went to Arsenal anyway and didn't go that far in the Champions League either. So, but thinking on Polly as well, she's not been the only member of the women's team to leave in the last 12 months. You know, Martin Ho left, and also the physio on the women's side, he joined up with the men's team under Ten Hag as well. So there's been quite a few changes over the last 12 months, and I'm expecting a few more in the next course of the next several months as well. But I was reading something earlier about Bancroft's tenure at United, and someone was saying her legacy, well, wasn't nothing short of transformative. I'm like, well, not quite for me. I just think she's had, she'd probably say have some successes, but I'm just thinking, did she get everything she wanted to do? I don't know. I mean, she's going on to be a CEO at Grimsby Town. I'm just like, well, at a men's team as well. So she's going up in the world, but I'm just thinking, what is really going to be her legacy left behind? Is it going to be, say, we're going to look back and go, oh, was it transformative or not? And I'm just like, it's up, it's who's Sir Jim and the team, started to bring forward, into the women's team, because we need that structure in there. I just feel like it's been a bit, probably over the course of this season, a bit lost. And like, who goes to who and where is this team going? Just feels like, I think I said it on the way back from the Arsenal game, was just like, feels like we're slightly regressing from last season. It was like, we was on such a trajectory, and now we're just hit a brick wall, and we're like, we can't smash through it again. So I'm like, that's what I'm hoping when a new team's put in place, that they can do that job.
It's very, very, very interesting. And again, Hylane saying the same thing. Not sure what to think. Obviously, behind the scenes issues don't suggest a good job, but you do wonder how much was hamstrung by the idiots. Nice. That she answered to. I'm going to ask you this one, Matt. I've read the write-ups, both the one from Grimsby and the one from Manchester United. And honestly, you would think she had, I don't know, cured cancer, Alzheimer's, and measles all in the same stroke, because the number of things that have been attributed to happening under her tenure. I'm just going to write down some of the things they put in the press release. So under her, we managed to win the FA Cup. We came second in the WSL, qualified for the UEFA Women's Champions League. She oversaw the infrastructure, including this, getting the new women's facilities at Carrington. And she managed to help support the increase in revenue and in attendances at LSV, including the sale of 150,000 tickets at Old Trafford. There's a question in there somewhere. Would you agree with that? Or do you think a lot of that was happening anyway and has happened? I'll try to choose my words carefully, but it's not going to come out right, in spite of Polly rather than because of Polly.
Yeah, no, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think, listen, selling tickets and increasing revenue, I'm not being funny. It's a big club. It's a massive club. That was always going to happen anyway. You could get, I don't know, Chuckle Brothers in, or one of them, and they could do the same job. It's not difficult, is it? We're not talking the likes of, but we're not talking likes of West Ham or in Everton.
I just love how you changed yourself from getting the Chuckle Brothers to just one of them, realising that we can only get one now.
Well,
very good.
You get my point. But listen, obviously she has done some things. She might have overseen sort of the, I don't know what they call it, like the plans for the women's building in Carrington. That was great. If she has, brilliant. But to start saying, we got second in the league because of her, we got to Wembley because of her, like, last time I checked, she didn't manage the team and she didn't take training. So it's a little bit of a strange thing. I get crediting somebody, saying thanks for all you've done, but just literally that's all it needs. Thanks for all you've done. Good luck in Grimsby. Like, we don't need to have a whole list of what she's done to try and people please. We just need to get to the facts of, she's done what she's done. We thank her for it. She's moving on. See you later. We're going to recruit and go forward. So it doesn't need the whole sort of circus that comes with it for me. But yeah, it's kind of happened.
Yeah, absolutely. It was 2 years ago, is the answer to your question there. 2022. I remember it well because I remember doing a fans forum whilst I was on, I believe it was the M5, and I pulled over at some services to try and do the fans forum, and you'd never try and do that on just Wi-Fi. Well, not even Wi-Fi. It wasn't even using the services one. It was using 4G. Remember those days? Oh my God. It did not work well. Drops out of there at least 5 or 6 times. So there we go. And if I said one, I obviously meant got to the final. Everyone's a critic nowadays. But there we go. Okay, yeah, so fair points. High Lane saying, don't think she can be credited for last year. That was rolling before she came, but things like tickets or revenue you could give her credit for. To be honest, considering that big brass band, she's lucky that anybody went back again. But there we go. Mixed feelings. I live in Grimsby. Just thoughts and prayers is all I can give you, really, Alan. That's an unfortunate situation for anybody. So there we go. Right, we've got a few more bits. What have we got? This was a good one. So what you can't dispute is the mess of our recruitment. We've got about 7 players you can play as an 8. And on the other hand, no cover at fullback. Polly has played a part in that. Ross saying certain players being bought that Mark didn't play. Was Polly buying them? Which is a reasonable thought. And again, from High Lane, I think it's the problem because the structure at United has been so awful, it's impossible to work out who's responsible for what. So as a result, Ian's question, I think, is the one that I want to throw out to all of you, really, if any of you want to answer it. Will they even get a like-for-like replacement, or will they bring men and women's performance together given the appointments being made? As I said, Polly's off to Grimsby and she's going to take care of the whole shebang. She's the CEO of everything. She's covering the men's side and the women's side. Do you feel that we're going to bring somebody in and they're going to end up looking after both the men and the women? Or do you think it's a better model to split the two and just allow budgets for people to go on because of the fact there's so much work to be done? What would you do? Let's go in reverse order. Matt, you work in a football club. What would you do?
I would split it. I would have one specifically for the men, one specifically for the women. I think the trouble that I find, or that I've known for experience, is that there's always favouritism towards one, which we probably know where that's going to end up. And I think you get more done. Like if you have a specific structure, you are specifically responsible for the women. You work in whatever they work. I'm assuming 7 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever. Like, you've got the time. You're not splitting your time thinking, oh, well, I've got to get this done for the men's side. Got to get this done for the women's. I think a whole restructure, rebuild, but completely separate for me, and sort of go from there. I think we saw it in season 1 when they had like John Murtagh trying to sort of juggle doing the men and the women, and then he did sort of transfers and things for one, and then came over to the women. And I know there's people said then, he can't manage both. So I think specifically for that and based on experience, I think I'd split it and get a whole new structure specifically for the women's side in.
I tend to agree. Eamon, yes, it's all me. And it is typical lazy journalism and the fact that I'm 41. And obviously wasn't paying attention to what I was saying. So all me, never mind. And totally agree with this as well from Sporty. I think you have to give Polly credit for securing a CEO role within men's football. Not easy for women to get a senior role in men's football. And I think I agree with that too. JJ agreeing they should be kept separate. One individual that can devote the time and energy to the women's side. Andrew, do you agree with that?
I'm just thinking, well, reporting, Sir Jim coming in and the reported sporting director being, they want Dan Ashwell. I mean, his time at Brighton, he oversaw like the men's, the youth, and the women's as well. But I presume he had people around him. He delegated, tasks and roles so that they could follow through on the orders given. So I'm just like, do you have one person, they just all report to, but then it's like you have several other people, with like dedicated, tasks within the team. So I'm just like, I just think the women's team needs a lot of focus as well as the men's team at the moment, because for the last like 10 years of the men's, it's been like in like disarray. So I mean, the women's, it's just like as I feel like we've lost our way this season. So I'm just like, we need to get back on track to what, and break that. It's like we broke that top 3 last season. So it's just like, we need to be doing it on a consistent basis. And obviously we're going to fall short. Well, it looks like we're going to fall short again this season. So I'm just like, I'm just thinking, I feel like you need somebody who's going to, like, a bit like when Sir Alex was in charge, he'd oversee it like a top-down view, but you'd give people, I want to see this, this, and this, and then I can see what's happening. So I just think one person, but several people underneath them. So sort of kind of split, I think, or not.
Very true, very true. Kevin saying, hope it's not true, but Dan Ashburn could still be cutting his lawn in 20 months' time. To be honest, I kind of hope he is. Otherwise, his lawn is going to be rather overgrown. So he's going to have to. It's one of those recurring jobs. A bit like cutting your hair, so I understand. So there we go. We've got to have a chat about the gaffer. Not Skinner, this one. This guy just here. Fun dog. Giving it the Barry out, or because I said something wrong, as if he never says anything wrong, but he forgets, as he's already said, I'm the governor tonight. So back in your box, Quiff boy. There we go. So, Dick, if you could get through it mid-laugh, what about you? Would you split the roles? Do you want one person looking after them all? What say you?
Sorry, that made me giggle. I think it's hard because I feel like if it is one person, I feel like we all know that the woman's side would just be pushed to the side. Whereas if it's 2 different individuals, one could be just solely for the women and one for the men. But like Andrew said, if there was one person who, they all are in contact with, and then people underneath as well that they can, like say 3 people doing the women's and 3 doing the men, I think that would work as well. But I suppose it's just what, Jim feels like he needs to do now. And I feel like it's a big positive with him coming in, and I feel like he is going to put some more effort into the women's team that we do need carrying on. So yeah, I don't really mind as long as they do the job and they do what they're paid to do, because I'm sure they're paid a lot of money to do so. So do your job and do it well.
No, absolutely. And Paul saying here, it'll be interesting to see if we recruit any rumours. None that I've had. So it'll be very interesting to see what they choose to do. Interestingly enough, it's already going around. Rob saying Quiff Richard has arrived. Absolutely. It's my name for him, which I love. Even better than Heathcliff, which was the original one. NT saying, kind of said you were the governor tonight, Barry. Exactly. Can't have this mutiny in the chat from him. We can't. So there we go. There's also rumours that, do you remember we used to train in Connor's hair? Do you not remember that? Back when the training ground was at the Quiff. Remember that? I just remember that. It's great fun. Oh dear. What a world. What a world. So, I think that's enough on Polly, really, isn't it? I don't know that we've really got too much more we can talk about with her. So I kind of want to move on to the next bit, really, which was this bit about the stadium. To be honest, as much as I'd love for us to keep Old Trafford in the event we build a new stadium, I have a feeling that we demolished. I'm so torn over a new stadium. Whilst Kevin's saying moving to play at Old Trafford is fair enough, but let's fill the holes in the roof first, which I'm sure we can do. It's not a problem, should we need to. So it'll be very, very interesting to hear what people in the comments think of this, to be honest, because I'm not entirely sure what I think about this. I spent a long time debating it. I've always said I want us to not rebuild, but revitalise the stadium and sort of work from that. Sounds here like they are definitely trying to get a new stadium for the men to play in. And listening to Sir Jim Ratcliffe was very interesting, talking about where do you go if you want to see the home of football? It's the south of England. Same for cricket, same for the concerts. Everything is just in London. So why not have a Wembley of the North? The stupid thing is that Old Trafford used to be like a Wembley of the North. It was that good of a stadium. So What do we think on this panel? First of all, about the stadium. Do you see a situation where United just give Old Trafford to the ladies, in which case they get to take over all that history and everything that goes on there with it, and effectively be pioneers within that, because there's not too many grounds there's no grounds in the Premier League that have given their stadium to the girls, or they might be sharing it, but they haven't given it to them. And also thoughts on what Sir Jim Ratcliffe said. I might misquote him slightly here, but basically he said it doesn't matter which team it is that's wearing the badge of Manchester United, they should all be supported. They all need to be given everything that they can be given, because they're representing us. So what's your thoughts on that? Andrew, you've been there many times, as we say, the season ticket holder on the channel. How would you feel, however many years down the line it might be, if you're told you've got to go to a brand new stadium and Old Trafford's given to the ladies?
So we had this debate on the men's channel a few weeks ago. What do we do about the stadium? Do we, redevelop it or have a new stadium? That's why I said I was slightly torn. Yes, Jim, he's saying about the latter, so saying that a new stadium was talks of it be built right next to the existing stadium. So, but I wouldn't have. If we were to have a new stadium, I'd all be given where we are at the moment with the current, with Old Trafford given to the women's team and even the academy teams as well. So whether we keep it at the same size that's another question. So if we did build a new stadium of say 90,000, 100,000 stadium, then would we reduce that one down? Old Trafford's, I don't know, 30, 20,000, a bit like the City in area academy stadium. So I'm just, it's a tough one for me. I'm just like, Old Trafford's, sacred, and it's got all that rich history as well. So, but I say, whatever decision Sir Jim makes, not every fan's going to be, happy. Some will be happy, some will be like, well, not so happy. But as he said, Old Trafford's, it's not. Other stadiums have, got ahead of us now, and so we're not the modern stadium that we are, say, 20 years ago. Yeah, we were. So, but times have moved on. So, it is looking a bit tired, Old Trafford, but it's still, Sir Bobby once coined, it's the theatre of dreams, and we've seen many dreams played out on that pitch, and it's just like. And what I liked about Sir Jim in that interview, he was being very open about what he's wanting to do, and he's taking accountability, and answering difficult questions, which the Glazers have not done much in how many years they've been with us. And I'm just like, it's like I say, he's talking a game now, so it's now the execution's got to be delivered, and so the era of Sir Jim Ratcliffe has started. So got to see what he brings to the table, what actions he does carry out.
You're right, and Kevin's saying here, he spoke like a fan yesterday. It's a long time that anybody spoke with a passion for the club like that, and I think everybody would have to agree with that too. So, Vic, a few things being mentioned here. JJ going for, I actually prefer a new stadium for the women as opposed to it being a new stadium for the men. Imara suggesting, I don't think a separate women's stadium is needed. Separate or dedicated training facility, yes. Walk before you run, which is fair enough. But if you've got a spare 74,000 stadium going free, you've got to put somebody in it, right? I guess we're going with that. And I think people have got to remember that's not happening right now. It's going to have to be years in advance. Ian Lee saying, I don't think giving the women a 74,000 capacity stadium would work. Cost for the club would not be sustainable given they account for the teams separately. Do you feel like actually if we do put a new men's stadium out there and the women did take over Old Trafford, do you think the filling it would be the issue? And do you feel that maybe it's the costs side of things, the fact you've got to run it, and at the moment there's only 22 games per season, plus whichever cup games you might get drawn. Let's call it 30 just for the lulz, but it probably won't be. Would it then become like a women and academy ground so that you potentially get more like that? How do you envision that in your brain, and do you think it's the right thing to do?
Yeah, when I was sat yesterday watching the interview and hearing little things, seeing little things, the first thing that came to mind is the fact that the women's team aren't going to fill that stadium. You know, the girls openly say that, you know, Leigh Sports Village is their home. They like playing at Old Trafford. They like getting the big crowds, but Leigh Sports Village is their home. I am open to it, and you know, I mean, whatever we say isn't going to put anything towards it anyway. It's Jim's decision and the club's decision. But yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is the fact that we aren't going to fill that. Yeah, we might get a few more a few more thousand because people want to be at Old Trafford, but you know, that history that Old Trafford has isn't just going to be passed down to the women. All the history that has been made in that stadium is the men. And you know, it's very difficult because I don't want to sound like I'm just talking all for the men, but you know, a new stadium, they would have to make new history in that stadium. You know, it can't just be carried over to a new stadium. That's not going to be called the Theatre of Dreams. They can't just rename a new stadium after the old one. It doesn't work like that. You know, people are still always going to say Old Trafford, you know, that happened at Old Trafford, and that happened with the men, not the women. So for me, you know, build a new stadium by all means, but you can't put the women in to replace the men in that stadium. It's just not going to work. I mean, I don't see why we just can't refurbish the stadium, sort it out, make it look tidier, keep the history that goes with it, and, you know, let the women play there, but also let them keep their home, or build them, you know, a smaller version that the academy and the women can play in. And yeah, the magic would stay in Old Trafford. It always will. You know, it's Manchester United and that's Old Trafford, and no new stadium is going to change that. So
I think a new stadium, we just call it New Trafford. That seems very simple, and nobody struggles with it. But it won't be, will it? It'll be like the Ineos, new Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes trading stadium of some sort. They'll come up with some ridiculous name for it.
Also, I will say, Barry, 20 minutes away is Leigh Sports Village for me. I don't want to go to Old Trafford at 7 o'clock at night. I'd rather go to Leigh Sports Village. It's 20 minutes away. That's a lot easier.
I'm positive that the next time we hear Sir Jim Ratcliffe speak about the women's team, he's going to mention
me.
We're not going to move the women because it takes 20 minutes to get there, and we don't want inconvenience for it. So the other 9,999 of you can get on your bikes.
That's one thing I would say is Leigh Sports Village is literally in the middle of nowhere, which, like I said, it's very handy for me. But Old Trafford's got the facilities for parking, but again, you're not going to fill it. So do we really need it right now? Probably not.
Rob's getting out of his box again. No Red Bull, Barry in the bin. I was merely being inclusive by putting everybody in. You know full well I couldn't care less about Red Bull. It doesn't give you wings. It just gives you arrogance, doesn't it, Connor? Oh, there you go. Look at that. Red Bull equal better than anything, Rob. Don't think so. Probably rather have Monster, to be honest. But there we go. Keep Old Trafford, but reduce the size down to 30,000. Also, Leigh isn't in Manchester. And I think there's a lot of teams, like, for example, Brighton isn't in Crawley, but yeah, that's where we're going to have to go should we wish to watch.
Leigh is in Greater Manchester, though. So it is in Manchester. Because, I mean, I live not far, and, you know, I have Lancashire postcode, Wigan postcode, but it's Greater Manchester, not Lancashire. So Leigh is in Manchester.
Well, there we go. Now we're going to fight over what's in Manchester and what isn't. So there we go. Good fun. What's this here? HR meeting called 8:10. You know we'll still be on here at 8:10. I can feed it in the water, but feel free, jump on. You can jump on now anytime you like, Connor. Feel free. You can take over, and I'll go to bed. Not a problem. Matt, there's so much to go through on this one. Sporty talking about the fact that, let's remember, other teams have moved into stadiums which have secured public funding, so it's not like we're the only ones. And sort of going to what JJ says and what Vic has said, there's still far too much sexism in British football, and I feel like there'll be a lot of grumpy, unhappy men if the women get Old Trafford due to the history and nostalgia. So it's interesting that Vic was actually one of those talking about that fact herself, because I don't know, anyone who watches this channel will know I've got zero problems with the women going there at all. My issue is with the history. I don't want it to be knocked down. As long as it stays and is used for the good of Manchester United somehow, some way, that to me is the most important thing. What we can't do is do like they've done in Highbury and at White Hart Lane, just knock down all of these stadiums, build a new one, and then that ground, that sacred, hallowed ground on which everybody's played, just we can't drop that. We can't lose that. That's kind of how I feel. Although Alan does say building the Emirates Stadium close to the old Highbury Stadium has been a great success. Imara says she feels like the women's game is changing dramatically. Don't want to build something now that will be outdated in 1 or 2 years. Not sure it necessarily would be. While Jake says, I imagine club funds the new stadium, but will get government assistance, better transport, tax incentives for the community hub, and the improvements they seem to be aiming for. But as Ian said, he'd prefer a dedicated women's stadium at Old Trafford rather than Lee. I think we'd have support larger crowds. It would do. Be better for all the teams, including the academy, to have everything together. James says, keep the men's team at Old Trafford, build a new academy stadium for the women and academy teams. Where would you go with this, Matt? Because I'm not entirely sure I know anymore quite what I would like to happen. I think, do we just have to trust Sir Jim Ratcliffe that actually he's going to do the right thing? Or do you think there are other things that we need to, that we need to worry about? What do you reckon?
It is a difficult one. I can see it from sort of everybody's point of view. I think for me, it's been mentioned in the comments a few times, a dedicated women's ground would be great. I know obviously there was I think it was Andrew actually posted it in our WhatsApp group about the land around sort of Trafford area and new transport links and things about that. If there's a big enough piece of land to stick a stadium on, then let's do it. It's worked for them down the road with their own little, whatever they call it, shambles of a thing. It has worked though, barring obviously the small attendances they get. But I think, something that's our own, somewhere that's easy for people to get to. I know a lot of people talk about transport links and Lee. And like you said, Barry, for sentimental reasons, I think keep Old Trafford specifically for the men, with all the history. I think that said, though, it is a difficult one because obviously people saying knock it down, people saying refurb it. I think for me, if we do refurb it, which would be my preferred choice, how long will that last? Is that sort of going to be like papering over the cracks, so to speak? Is it going to be last for 2 years, last for 5 years? How viable is it in terms of, how much do we need to knock down to rebuild, or how much needs changing? So I think to answer it and to summarise, I think just trust what sort of Jim's wanting to do and go from there, really.
Josh was saying, I like LSB. I think the women feel at home at LSB, just repair and refurbish Old Trafford, or build a new one for women and repair Old Trafford for men. I think this is where the women's game is going mental, because we've just seen, we spoke about it on All Women's Football the other day, about these video decisions that have happened. Rachel Daly being given retrospective action, Poppy Patterson getting her retrospective action, nothing for Women Moy. Do we want VAR? Do we want goal line technology? And you're not going to get that at Lee. Nobody's sticking that technology in at Lee when nobody plays, whether it's in Manchester, England, Scotland, Nigeria. Doesn't matter where Lee actually is. What matters is they're not going to put that stuff in there. Nobody's going to pay for that to happen, which means one or two things have got to happen. Either these big clubs have got to try and build up these other stadiums that they're using that involves the women's game, which means we would have to pay for Lee to be given those sorts of upgrades so that we can use them. Or we've got to start to find a way to put these girls into, bigger stadiums, I suppose, is what I'm going with here. JJ, I do worry about how men perceive the women's side and what they think the girls deserve. Yeah, that's fair enough. Ema wants to refurb Old Trafford, but build a mini stadium for women and youth would be her first choice. But to be honest, bringing the women closer to Old Trafford in a new format would be better. It's obviously Jim's preference is a new build. Yep. He's looking to trigger major regeneration of the area surrounding the ground, which sounds good. High Lane, we're not bringing your one up. And Imara, I'd go for men, women's Falls team, shares the big stadium. Academy team share smaller facility. I kind of agree. But let's be honest, your lot are at Boreham Wood, aren't they? So they're in exactly the same situation as we are. Yes, they use the Emirates every now and again, and yes, they all use the one dedicated training facility. But let's not kid ourselves that Arsenal are in the Emirates every single week, and that's the way that works. It's just not at the moment, is it? Although if there is a team that's going to do it, it might well be Arsenal. Anybody got anything else to mention about what they've heard from Sir Jim regarding the women's team or Old Trafford?
I think as well, a big factor of it is I think someone mentioned in the comments about the money of it all, and the cost. Going to Lee Sports Village, if you travel far, the Holiday Inn, you've got your hotel, whatever. Going to Old Trafford and getting your hotel is a lot more expensive in centre of Manchester. I think you've got the tickets would go up for the women's. I'm talking about for the women's. The general tickets would go up. So you've got a lot of things like that, and they would need that to keep Old Trafford going as well as it does now. And if they had another stadium on the side too. So I think that's something else that, could put people off. Old Trafford isn't the easiest place to get to, I will say. Kind of got to get trams and things like that. So it is a big cost for, there's a lot of young girls that travel to Lee Sports Village on their own.
What I will say, though, Vic, is that every time we've had a game at Old Trafford, the numbers have been significantly bigger than anything you would get at LSB. So do you think that is just because it's a one-off and it's a treat and we couldn't sustain that weekly?
I think that's due to the fact that all the men's history at Old Trafford, people want to go to Old Trafford. That's where things happen. That's where magic happens, as someone said. That is the theatre of dreams, and that's all from the men. So I think, the attendances would go up just because people want to be seen at Old Trafford. But I don't think it's for the right reasons. Truthfully, I don't think it would be for the right reasons. I don't think people would go to watch the women's side. They'd go to be at Old Trafford for a cheaper match to watch.
Interesting. What do you two reckon about that, what Vic said there? Because it's an interesting point. Do you think we could fill or at least get bigger attendances? We know that Arsenal are getting generally around 40,000 each time unless Man United comes to town, in which case we sell over 60,000 tickets because we're Man United. And this is kind of the point, isn't it? Because we're Man United, is there not a chance that we would get good crowds week in, week out?
I think there's potential for it. No, I think there's potential for it, but I still think like Vic said, people after a day trip, people just coming over and say, "Oh, yeah, I've been at Old Trafford. Here's all my pictures. I'm going to go in the shop." Like it needs to be. If people are coming over, it needs to be done for the right reasons, not just for like a day trip or a photo for your social media. If you're sticking with it, stick with it. I just think the size of Old Trafford, if we're on about giving it away to the women's team, is far too big. I know people have said earlier on in comments about like costings and things like that. I think for me, as I mentioned earlier, our own purpose-built stadium, share it with the academy, the 23s, whatever, 20,000, 25,000 would be absolutely spot on. But yeah, I think it needs to be carefully thought out with whatever the plan is.
I was saying,
just giggle. Sorry, I just got you do make me giggle. Your fans show that the team doesn't. Yeah. Okay, if you say so. Go on, Andrew.
Just to add on that, I said like with the women's team getting Old Trafford. I just remember Tooney saying, I think it was a good few seasons ago, we want to fill Lee Sports Village out first, and then we can progress to the bigger stadium. So I give Arsenal their due. Their market, their women's game really well, getting the fans into the Emirates as well. So with their tickets sold, so I'm just like saying record crowds. I'm like, well, that's tickets sold. How many were actually all attended? But I just think I'm in agreement. It's just like we need like a bit like what our neighbour City have got, and a stadium, where you can house like the women's team, but the academy teams as well. So for the men's and the women's as well. So it's just like build that up as well. So just to give them just Old Trafford as it is, I'm just thinking it's going to be a bit too big, and it's just like can we get that, those large crowds every single time? I'm just like, I get for like the bigger games against Chelsea, City, Liverpool, and Arsenal, but it's just those other teams. Are we going to get, like at the City game, we had 44,000. So when we're playing the likes of, I don't know, Bristol City, we're going to get 44,000 at Old Trafford? Probably not. So it just feel like a smaller size stadium is best, and then we can just, that's the way to, I think, grow the fan base around the women's team as well. So, but yeah, it's interesting plans ahead. And I'm just thinking, I know Sir Jim's looking at like government funding for I was thinking, well, the government ain't going to hand over a load of money to build a new stadium. So I think that's more about the regeneration around the area. And I know there's been like a sort of committee set up, and Gary Neville's going to be on it as well. So, because he has like hotel football next to Old Trafford as well. So so he'll have his say in, how United, go in the next couple of years as well. So it's good that we, getting former players on board as well. And nice, I think, getting the women's team, involved as well, getting their say. What would they like to see happen as well with the team and the stadium going forward as well? Whether, remain at Lee, or, do they want like a purpose-built stadium for themselves? So you've got to see it from all angles.
It would definitely be interesting. TJ saying, as far as finances go, to how much money will refurbishing Old Trafford cost, and would that affect available money for signings? I mean, I think whichever way it goes, the budget will be set for the stadium regardless. I wanted to ask you this one, Andrew, though, because Ema says it's much easier to get to Old Trafford than Lee. Now, you regularly travel to both Old Trafford and to Lee. We know that Vic is biased, so she can't answer this question. Matt and myself, we work on a Sunday, so we're not going. So you're the only person who can genuinely answer this question because you religiously travel to both. Which ground is easier to get to and park at? Old Trafford or Lee? Off the fence, Andrew Wall, I'm telling you.
I know.
Those out your backside. Just give us a proper answer. The fans demand it.
Lee, probably. Yes.
Lee's easier to get to. Give us the reasoning, because we always hear it's a nightmare to get to. You can't park. It's all atrocious.
If you get to Lee early enough, you can park. It's becoming more apparent. Like, say a couple of seasons ago, a game that's kicking off at 12 o'clock, you probably could get there about 10:30 and still find a space. Whereas now, I remember saying to Connor, the car park's starting to fill up, from like 9:30 onwards. So you sort of got to be there about 2 and a bit hours before the game's even kicked off, just to get a space near the stadium. So once that's all filled out, you're then parking further away. I think one time me and Connor had to park about a mile away, I think, because the traffic getting to Lee. I think it was a Friday night game, so everyone's coming out of work and, coming to the game as well. So it's just like, if you're not there early enough, you can't get a space. But unfortunately, I can drive to these games as well. So, but I know public transport, it's probably a bit more difficult to get to Leave from what I've heard on public transport, but I don't know.
I think it's hard as well, Barry, because, Andrew's going to Old Trafford, but he's going to see the men, so there's more people there. Old Trafford's a nightmare to get out of after a night game of the men's team. But so is Lee Sports Village a nightmare to get out of if you want to leave straight away. So at the end of the day, it's hard to judge because, leaving Old Trafford after a women's game is a lot easier than the men's game. So I guess it's hard in that way to tell.
No, I will not be crashing into.
I've got to apologise. I've got to. But Matt has absolutely ended me. There's been so much written about getting into LSV and all of that jazz. Oh dear, no, wrong button, Barry. Oh, where was it? What did Connor say? Connor saying, oh my good Lord, it's all gone wrong. Come back
It's all gone to pot.
No, it wasn't that one. It has gone to pot. It's amazing. I don't think we'll be the governor much longer at this rate. There it is. Andrew has his own parking space at Old Trafford, though, so it is a biased answer. But Matt has put in our little private chat, he hears it helps if you don't crash on the way. Is this part of your reason, Andrew? Is it because you've never had a crash going to Old Trafford? Going to LSV, but at Old Trafford you're more likely to, I don't know, bump into somebody.
Yeah, I might have bumped into a former player or two. So yes, I'm planning not to do it again. So yes, the story goes, yes, I did crash into Brian Robson's car. So not the way I wanted to meet him, but on the way to the game. But
Connor's driving or not. You're not wrong there.
Yes. Yeah.
So there we go. Lee easier to get to. Old Trafford easier to park at. And neither easy enough to get to or out of, apparently, depending on who's driving. So there we go. Good stuff, everybody. Oh, Connor's not happy with you now, Rob. Not happy at all. Lots of people saying they live half an hour from there. James Newhill saying they live 10 minutes away. I think it's just one of those, isn't it? It all depends. If these things shouldn't catch me, but they do. Yes, he is. It's all right. Yes, you do. Stand together in your bumps. You are usually in the same car when it happens, to be fair. So there we go. Yeah, that's Old Trafford. I don't think we really need to go too much deeper into that, but we are going to have to bite the bullet. Just to point out a couple of things. Sophie, where would United play if they did do a rebuild? I mean, they would find somewhere. This is why I don't think a rebuild is going to happen. It'll be like most places. They will build the stadium. Maybe it takes a year to build the stadium, so they'd still play at Old Trafford and then move into the stadium when it's ready. That's why they would need to have the ability to do something with Old Trafford. And don't worry about it, High Lane. We all like a giggle. But we do have to ask this question, I think. What happens next will come down to how Ineos envisage the management structure going forward. And Kevin's saying earlier on, it was strange that Skinner made some comments about Ineos at the weekend after losing to Arsenal. 5 days later, Polly's leaving United. Doesn't mean that Mark is staying. Now, we're famously on this channel not really Skinner in, Skinner out. That's not really where we go. But it's been a while since we've had a fans forum. And it's only right, therefore, that people have their opportunity to talk about the things that they wish to talk about. So, with that in mind, let's have a chat about Mark Skinner, because it's not easy, is it, to have this conversation? I don't even know what the question should be, really. I know what the question should be, but I don't know how to put that in a nice way. Do you think that Mark Skinner will be looking for employment either now, at the end of the season, or way in the future? When do you think that is going to happen, and why? I suppose we're going to go to. And Andrew, we're going to let you kick off on that one. Let you crash straight into it.
It's a difficult one. I mean, it's Jim coming in and bringing his own people in. It's just feeling, well, when does the United hierarchy feel like they've seen enough? Does Skinner get, a new contract or not? I know the weekend he was, name checking Ineos as well, and he was sort of, well, before that in other games after the interview saying, investment in the squad depth, and like, we know what you're angling for. So I was like, and just with Skinner, I'm just looking back now, like the defeat against Arsenal was like, it was probably one of our worst performances of the season. But I don't know whether. So I read somewhere, it's almost like Mark Skinner seems to have more lives than a cat, and I'm just like, it's just like, and the result on Saturday is like we've lost the 3 matches against the top 3 in the WSL by the same scoreline. So it's like, and Arsenal didn't really have to break sweat on their Saturday to get past us. I mean, I bet they was just like when they saw Blundell and right back, and then Evans at left back, was like their players thought, well, we've got an easy time here, we can run down the wings. But I just feel like we didn't cover ourselves in glory, nor did Skinner during that game and in some other games this season. I've questioned like the tactics and the substitutions as well, and I'm like, well, what we're doing in this game is like, is somebody challenging Skinner's, decision, saying, "Oh, should we just try this instead?" Or I don't know whether going forward. I'm just thinking, because we've only got the FA Cup left to play for. If we don't get through against Brighton, get past Brighton, is that? I don't want to say, is it by the nail in the cup? Come the end of the season, he will go. If we don't, even if we did end up winning the FA Cup, is it enough? I don't know. I'm just thinking, has he taken United as far as he can from the hierarchy's point and the fans' point of view as well? I'm just thinking, when have we seen enough? So it's just, I say, I will back him until the day you leave, until he decides to leave, or those above him go, well, it's time, you've got to go. So, but at the moment, he's here to the end of the season. We've just got to see how it all plays out. Yes, qualifying for the Champions League, it's a mountain to climb, but so it doesn't look like we're going to get there. So it's just, let's just see how the rest of the season play out, and then make the decision from there.
I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it, Matt? Because, John here says, I don't think he'll be sacked. I think his contract won't get renewed, which is kind of where I've been now for the last couple of months, if I'm honest. High Lane saying it's easy to start frothing after games like the Emirates, but realistically, they'll likely wait until after the summer. Joshua, though, is saying, let's just hope the right structure will be put in place, whether he stays or not. Hopefully he stays and enjoys the benefit of the new setup. Meanwhile, Ian also says, football's about results. If he wins every game until the end of the season, is it harder to justify a sacking? I really don't know with all this. I mean, if we were to win every single game and go win the FA Cup, is that enough for Mark Skinner to be given another season? It's a trophy. It's something that we haven't won, regardless of what me or the journalist might have said earlier on when we were talking about Polly Bancroft. Where do you stand with that? Has Mark Skinner done enough over the course of the last few years to justify getting another contract at the end of the season? And if we were to win all those games, which, by the way, would include a win over Chelsea for the first time, is that enough for us to say, actually, do you know what, we need to keep Mark Skinner? Or we start searching for a new manager now, and if we can't find one, maybe just accept the fact that we need to give Mark another year or two in the job. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one. I think, even last week's result aside, I think, I've spoken about this with some of you, that it feels like we've just stagnated. Like we've not, it doesn't feel like we've achieved much this season. It doesn't feel like we've built on the sort of success last year of making the Champions League and, getting to an FA Cup final. We've gone out again early in the Conti Cup. We do have a chance at the FA Cup. How likely that is going to be in terms of winning it, I'm not convinced. It just looks a mess. Like, I don't know if it's everyone, isn't it? Collectively, players and manager, just on the field. Sometimes you look at it and you think, what's the actual aim? What is the style of play? What we're looking to get out of this game? So I think for me, as others have said in the comments, I think let's get to summer and just don't renew it. I don't think, even if we did win every game, I don't think that would be enough to save him. I think you've got to look at the future. What is the plan now? What do we want out the next 3 years? Do we want to focus on a specific trophy? Do we want Europe? Do we want to, build and get more youth players through? I think it needs to be a clear plan. It seems chaotic. It seems to have got worse for me in the past sort of 12 months. And it's really now about, like I say, putting a plan together and rebuilding seems the wrong word, but also the right word, because it doesn't feel like it's a total disaster, but it's not where a club of this structure should be. And I know Mark keeps banging on about recruitment and investment, but, I think I read yesterday or the day before we'd spent closer to $1 million, or the squad is valued at $1 million. So it's not like money hasn't been there. It's more a case of, well, what have you actually done? I know Connor mentioned earlier in the comments about treatment of certain players, contract renewals, again, going back to that. We've got important players out of contract this summer. Do they believe that the club is going in the right direction and that Mark is the right person to lead them forward? Potentially not. But yeah, I think it does. It needs a reset in summer, and that's not just the manager for me. I think that's the whole backroom staff as well, and start again afresh.
It's a very double-edged sword here. JJ says Skinner didn't do very well in the NWSL. Did he? One of those when you think, was he ever the right person? Who knows? Whereas TJ says if he somehow wins the FA Cup and beats both Chelsea and City the rest of this season, it does somewhat change the situation a bit. I will maintain until the day that I die that Mark Skinner, out of the two managers we've had, is the better of the two. Purely because we finished second. We have had our best season ever under Mark Skinner. It wasn't under Casey Stoney. So, although there's lots of people saying, was he ever the right person? It feels like a redundant question, because whether he was the right one or whether he was the wrong one, he's been the best one. Is that enough for you? Or is it time we wave goodbye to Mark Skinner for you as well?
I'm guessing you mean me, Barry.
Thought I mentioned your name. I might not have done. I'm
It's
good
okay.
at adding extra bits of information that didn't happen. Quite possible I've missed out bits of information that were quite important too. So yeah, that was to you, Ed.
No, so I feel like everything I'm seeing at the moment is, Mark Skinner this, Mark Skinner that. And what winds me up is the fact that people say, last season we came second in the league. He did so well. If you look back at games from last season, tactically, that manager is absolutely shocking. To me, the FA Cup final, absolutely ridiculous. The subs he makes all last season, yes, we came second, but I'm not being funny. Last year, and I know I don't like blaming things like this, but last year we didn't have as many injuries. We had better world-class players, I will say. We had more of a bench. At the moment we've got one defender sat on the bench. It drives me absolutely insane, because I think to myself, last year, yeah, we did well, but we did well because, we had players that could play good football. This year, we've got players who could play good football, but we've got no subs, we've got no fresh legs. I'll say it, we've actually downgraded from last season, because although we've got better players, some better players, we've also got ones that are not world class. We need a clear out of players, fresh legs in, and it's not all the manager, but part of it is, tactically he is absolutely awful. Like, I honestly don't know what goes through his head sometimes. I think to myself, you're playing Gemma Evans at left back. She doesn't even play left back. She's a centre back. She's getting all the grief, the Gemma Evans curse. At the end of the day, the poor girl is stepped up, to be fair to her. I don't rate her myself, but she's stepped up. She's playing left back when no one else can. Give her a break. The manager's putting her in that position to embarrass herself. What do you expect? It honestly drives me insane. I can't cope. So no, I think we need to get rid of some players. We need to get rid of the manager, and we need a fresh start, because, we might have come second last year, and I'm not saying it was a fluke, because it definitely weren't, but last year as well, he was just as awful as this year. It's just the fact that he's had worse luck this year with injuries and things that he can't help, which is fair enough to him. But, last season he didn't play Vilda. What? What is going on? Yeah, he shouldn't be here. He needs to go. See you later.
If they do win every game and win the FA Cup?
Absolutely not.
Or even not every game. Even if we beat City, Chelsea, and win the FA Cup, still got to go?
Still got to go. Yeah, we could go and win players, but, at the Emirates, we were missing Jade, a big part of it. That player could have done a lot to us, but he made the decision to put Gemma Evans at left back when she doesn't play there. She does not play at left back, He made the decision to put Lisa there instead of Hayley. Things like this that I think to myself, we've got players and they're not even playing in the right positions. Use the players to your advantage, not to sit on the bench and do nothing, or to play out of position when they can't do it. I honestly think if you ask Gemma now, hold your hands up if you cannot play left back, she would put her hand up and say, no, I can't play left back. I've just embarrassed myself on the pitch at the Emirates in front of sold out. At the end of the day, that's him putting her in that position, not herself. It's absolutely appalling. Honestly, it makes me so angry. And if I was her, I'd be out that door. Honestly, I need to stop, because I'm going to end up getting really angry. I already am.
No, carry on. It's great fun watching somebody else get upset about
I'm in a full rant now, but it drives
sometimes
me.
I feel like I'm the only person saying it. Roger, just going to point out your thing here. It says United let go of Tunkara and kept Mannion. We didn't see enough of Tunkara. This is another thing that cracks me up, is when we have so many people saying, "Oh, we should have played this player." Where I take a much wider perspective of why is it that we're getting these players and not giving them a chance? Why were they being bought? Why were they being bought? Why did Tunkara get brought to Manchester United? Because she never played, so she can't have been good enough. So why was she even bought? Paul Greaves disagrees. He says Casey was a much better manager. Not going to argue with you, Paul. She was badly supported. They wouldn't even give her the toilets at Carrington, but yet we've obviously done the facilities like we said we were going to. In 2 years in America, she has 2 league shields and a final with a newly formed team. I mean, maybe so, but like the stats just don't back up what you're saying for me. You know, I think Mark Skinner has given us the best performances as yet. But as again, you are completely entitled to your opinion on that one. Who else have we got? Anybody else? I wouldn't say there's been an exodus of top players, if I'm honest with you. Honor was one that I'd expected to have gone for the reasons we've mentioned. Leslie Russo might feel like a top player, but let's be honest, Paris is outdoing her massively at the moment. So I don't know if we can necessarily say it's an exodus of top players, but certainly an exodus of players who have played a lot. And yeah, Evans is going to be picked for Wales, by the way. She'll be playing against the Republic of Ireland on Tuesday. If anybody sees her at left back for Wales, please let me know and I'll take everything.
I was just about to say at centre back where she actually can play.
I guarantee you she'll be a centre back. Exactly that. She might have been like a deer in headlights. You're not wrong either, because deers in headlights come running at you sometimes and all. And yeah, the way she came running there and kicked away that leg was not.
I honestly feel so sorry for that girl. I feel so sorry for her.
And this is what I'm saying. Takara Simon PSG doesn't get any minutes there either. So, you know, she was hurt. Yeah, absolutely. There's a big difference between being hurt and not able to play and being able to play and then not being chosen to play. But there we go. I think we've kind of said all we need to say about Mark Skinner. Don't feel like we need to really go too much more into that one. Again, people keep talking about having the 3 centre-backs. I'm just going to throw this out there. People keep saying, we could go to 5-3-2. Be amazing. You're still going to be playing Leah Goulton in the position where she's got to be defensive and forward. So realistically, you ain't making a huge difference unless you've got a proper wing back, and we don't. Unless we're putting Hannah Blundell there. We still don't necessarily have the right wing back. So unless you've got Hannah and Jade, it just ain't going to work, is it? It's just not. The problem is we don't have the players to play there. If we had the fullbacks, it wouldn't matter whether we went 4 or 5. That's the whole point.
What he could do, why we've no Jade, is actually play someone who's played right back before. Although I absolutely love, and Connor's going to kill me, but although I absolutely love Maya, and I know that, you know, her and Millie as a centre back is brilliant, but a player, if he's thinking logically like he should as a manager, he should put Maya at right back, Hannah, because Hannah is so much stronger on the left, Hannah at left, and Millie and Gemma, Aoife, you know, anyone in centre back, and that's logically what he should have done. But he doesn't think, and he then puts someone who's never played left back before at left back against Arsenal. Beth Mead, honestly, one of the best players in the world, I will say, you know, against someone, shut up, Connor, against someone who can't play left back and doesn't play left back. I mean, he doesn't actually think with his brain. Like, it just sounds simple to me of what you do. Does it not to anyone else?
I've been banging this drum for ages. Like every week, every day, people come onto it. Would you two have done the same? Would you be sticking Maya at right back? We might as well ask the question now, see if there's other people agreeing, and it's not just me.
No, I don't want it to happen, but it has to.
Is that what you're doing, Matt?
I see why it's an option, because anyone that knows me knows I've been banging on, even in Casey times, about playing players out of position. So I fully see where Vic's coming from in terms of not hanging out a centre half to dry at left back that's then going to get bullied all game due to the manager. So I think Mayer, I believe, played right back a few times at Brighton anyway, so it's not beyond possibility. You know, you go with your strongest team. I think somebody said in the comments about Aoife as well, if she's fully fit, her alongside Millie. You know, Mayer at right back and Blundell at left back. Why not? You know, this is the thing. If you had a manager that, I don't want to say was good, but had anything about him tactically, you change things and you try things. You know, you don't keep going with the same stuff that's failed. So why not? You know, it's worth a go, isn't it? And then if it doesn't work, you've tried.
I mean, Hayley Ladd plays centre back, doesn't she?
She's too small for me for that.
So, yeah, well, I agree, but it's better when someone's played centre back before than putting someone at left back, surely. True. You know, I mean,
he has done that for a while. It was interesting what Highlane's put here, saying that Ladd was at Carrington with the rest of the players yesterday, which surprised me.
Yeah, I saw that. She's not gone to Wales, I'm sure.
She's being picked. Andrew, what would you do?
I say definitely no having Gemma Evans at left back again. I say if we can all see it, then why can't Skinner see what we're seeing? Like, I know he changed it half time at Arsenal, but I thought, well, it's like after the horses bolted out the door. I'm like, well, I say we were much better in that second half, but yes, I'd probably move Mayer to right back. As Matt said, she has played it when she was at Brighton. She played a few times at right back, and she was comfortable in that position too. And I'd have Millie and Aoife as the centre back pairing as well, and then Hannah on the left as well. So, or even say Hayley Ladd can play as a centre back. She's done it for Wales alongside Gemma Evans as well. So if you wanted another two centre back pairing, you can have Evans and Ladd if you want, but not Evans at left back. But
you know what I'd call for? Rachel Williams. If you want someone to be absolutely terrified of someone, play someone out of position, put her defence. Honestly, I'd be terrified, mate.
I think Rachel Williams would play anywhere on the pitch. If you told her to go in goal, she'd do it. She's just like, I'll do anything for this team. I'll just say she just runs through brick walls.
Or rest.
Very interesting.
Or players.
Jennifer putting here, all that to be done was to replace Honor, not tinker with the entire defensive unit that worked well last season. I'm kind of with you. We did replace Honor. We got Jade. The thing was, what we didn't do was get a backup right back. That was what we desperately needed. We had left backs. We had Gabby George. We had Hannah Blundell. 2 for each position is what you want. We didn't have a second for right back. And this is the problem. They were always thinking, well, and I said it the day we bought the players, Jen. I sat there and said, it's the right back. You need a backup right back. And
we actually have
to throw Hannah Blundell out there. No,
we have got a backup right back, but she's injured.
Well, yes, there is, but I'm not going to go down that route because I'm not convinced
I'm not going to stick up for him in that way, but he has actually got a backup right back, unless this is what I was saying about the injuries. You know, it's not helped us at all, men's or women's side of United at the moment, or with a lot of other teams as well, so it's not just us.
We didn't have an adequate replacement.
I think she should be back soon, though, shouldn't she?
I
mean, I wouldn't be against it. It'd still be better than.
This is what people are saying, though. Why not play Phoebe Chadwick if you have to? I mean, you don't know what you've got until you play them. I mean, we do. This is the exact point.
Lucy Nelwell, she's good as well. I don't know what she plays now. Probably with a centre back.
Do you know what? I kind of wish she would, just so that people could see these youngsters play in the big leagues and see whether or not it would work. We've not got anything else to lose, to be honest with you, so we could just give it a go. And NT, you're quite right. That is all you've got to do is get out of meetings, just postpone and delay, get out of trouble. And to be honest with you, just do the show instead of him. It definitely worked. It's all good. I agree with this. Absolutely. Big difference between you team and first team. We could destroy Phoebe's confidence by throwing her in too soon. One probably wouldn't be a problem. You could probably get away with throwing one in, but it's where. And we just don't have the support, I don't think. Whereas here, exactly that. Graham may have played every game at right back for 3 years at Brighton. But still, we don't do it. And I suppose my point with this, as I've said all the time, is all you're doing is showing you don't have faith in your squad. When you say, I'm not going to put Mayer there because I don't think we've got a centre-back who can replace Mayer Letitia. And the minute you say that, you've just completely thrown every single one of your centre-backs under the bus as well. So it comes back to where I was going right at the very beginning of the show, and indeed weeks ago, Who's bringing these players in? Why are they being bought? Was it a Polly thing? Was it a Mark thing? Is it other people? Why are they coming? Nobody seems to make any sense as to why it is these players are coming in. So there we go. That's where we are. I don't think we've got anything else really to chat about. We were going to talk about the internationals, but let's be honest, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. Nobody really cares today about the internationals. There's nothing special happening. Although we will do a shout out to Jays, because obviously she's in her Gold Cup era at the moment, off with Brazil. So we wish her good luck because it's an actual tournament. So the rest of you, enjoy your swimming pools and keepy uppies like Ella Toon was doing with Maya and Millie. That was good content. I enjoyed that.
I was very disappointed with that content. I so thought she was going to throw Tooney in the pool.
Got to be honest, from the still, that's exactly what I thought had happened, that she'd picked Tooney up and thrown in the water. They're not allowed in the pool?
No, they're not allowed in the pool. I know. That was my exact face when I found out. I saw it in Twitter.
Why would you stay in a place with a pool where you're not allowed in the pool?
Yeah, you're not allowed in the pool. I don't know
Is that
why.
a hotel thing or a staff thing?
I don't know. I mean, they're not allowed in the pool. I've just seen it on a few different things that they aren't allowed in the pool.
That makes absolutely no sense.
I was like, I'd literally be diving in that pool after a training session. I'd be like, see you later. But no. I was very disappointed that Millie didn't throw her in.
Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But there we go. That is a fans forum done. We could go on. We could probably go on for another couple of hours for all the things we've got to say. But let's be honest, we're not going to do that. So there we go. We'll do a shout out for the people that have been called up. Obviously, tomorrow we've got Croatia against Norway. You can see Lisa Nilsson, should you wish to, just there. We've got Italy against Republic of Ireland, where Aoife Mannion is up for selection. So we shall see whether she gets chosen or not. Of course, for England against Austria on Friday, you could see Mary Earps, you could see Maya Letitia, possibly at right back, because that's where Serena thinks she belongs. You could see Ella Toon. And of course, Millie Turner might get her first cap. And Grace Clinton was in the squad as well, following her heroics at Spurs. Spain will be playing the Netherlands as well. Lucia Garcia is in for there as well. Sunday, Colombia play Brazil. Jays will be in the team, as TJ already says. She came on as a sub for Brazil. So we shall see how she gets on there. Then Tuesday, England, Italy. We've got, crikey, who's that? Norway against Croatia and the Republic of Ireland against Wales, where you could see Safia Middleton Patel. You could see Hayley Ladd. You would see Gemma Evans. Definitely not. And there's two youngsters from the academy. Maisie, I've got her name wrong. Maisie Davis and Olivia Francis. They're the two. And they are available for Wales. And then on the Wednesday, Brazil play Panama. And before you know it, the weekend's here and the WSL is back. Thank you all. Thank you. Honestly, the comments have been absolutely top-notch tonight. They really, really helped to move the chat along, I suppose, more than anything. I mean, she's there. Yes, I did say that. I thought maybe I didn't.
Yes.
I'm questioning. You're all making me question what I'm actually saying now. I'm going to have to go back after this, watch what has been done, just to make sure I've been speaking English, because I feel like I might have just ruined that slightly, but we'll see. Viva Panama? No. Viva Brazil. But yeah, so thank you everyone in the comments. Cheers, Vic, for joining us again. Very nice to have you on. We hope that your blood pressure has come down. Matt, as ever, brilliant to have you back on again. Hopefully we'll see you soon, and good luck with everything at Wythenshawe now. Is that where you are now?
Yeah, change of environment's going all right. So yeah, long may.
That's made me want to sing the Wythenshawe song then.
Come down and do it if you like.
No.
Why not? Abby George might be there.
I know.
Local lads.
We Wythenshawe yesterday, actually.
Is that in Manchester? Can we just confirm that? Or is that?
Yes, it is in Manchester.
Just checking. Excellent news. And of course, Andrew, excellent to have you here as well. Thanks everybody for joining us. What is happening next? Good question. Nothing happening at the weekend. So next week, we're just going to have to wait and see. There might be another show like this. He might put his finger out and actually do something next week. Who knows? If not, we'll just make do with this one. Just throw that out there for an hour. Could be entertaining. Who knows? Just watch. Just watch. See what's happening on Twitter. We'll soon tell you if we're on, and if we're not, enjoy yourself. Brilliant. See you all next week. Ta-da.